Welcome into live coverage once again on a Thursday night here on STN. It is the VSCRA in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, cars wheeling themselves around the newly configured Texas Motor Speedway. I guess we shouldn't say newly configured, but a relatively new addition to the iRacing service. Blake McCandless along with Taylor Burrison, of course, have to give a shout out to Zach Johnson doing work down in the virtual production trailer. But Taylor, we saw a wild ending to Kansas last week. There was a lot of varying strategy, but depending on how hard you wanted to run in the early part of the run. But now we moved to Texas, which still, I don't know how many times you could come here over the last year or so, but just turns 1 and 2 now at Texas provide these drivers a unique challenge they don't see anywhere else on the schedule.
No, it does not. And good evening, everyone. Texas is going to be a little bit of a different animal than we saw last week at Kansas. Kansas, we saw a lot of the drivers sticking to the top side of the racetrack, using that outside groove to build their momentum. Well, this time here at Texas, we're going to be seeing drivers using the bottom of the racetrack in order to help get their cars running to peak performance throughout the entire race here tonight. It's going to provide a little bit of a challenge, though, those first early laps, because you got to be careful here at Texas on turns 1 and 2, because it's very easy to lose control of your race car off corner exit, where practically you're drifting off the corner after having a little bit of experience this week here at Texas Motor Speedway.
So it's an incredible challenge and much different than what we're accustomed to seeing. It's also probably more difficult here, Taylor, in these Xfinity cars. You talk about the truck series, obviously, with their spec engine. A lot of these drivers will kind of dibble-dabble in some official series racing. They'll run the Cup cars here as well. Of course, that's the low horsepower, high downforce package, but these Xfinity cars, the same everywhere, so there's more horsepower, there's less downforce than any other combination that's running out here at Texas this week. So as far as difficulty goes for these race cars, I don't think there's any more challenge than driving these cars when you look at some of the other configurations on the NASCAR side of things.
Most definitely, and that's going to be providing a unique challenge for a lot of these drivers here at Texas Motor Speedway here tonight. How well will they be able to manage their cars, manage their tires in order to try to make it through a full fuel run or to their next pit stop? So it's going to be interesting to see what they can do as the laps progress here tonight. Hopefully, it's a big field tonight, so hopefully everybody will keep it clean and green for a duration of the race so we can have some great entertainment for all of our viewers here tonight.
Is 35 drivers is the count that I have officially on who all is appearing tonight. 29 so far have taken a qualifying time and picking up right where he left off last week. Brian Mercurio right now. It was Ryan Vargas for just a couple of moments, who would pretty fittingly so, obviously a driver in the NASCAR Xfinity Series right now outside of row number 1. But Mercurio, 4 wins on this season. He's been awfully strong. He's the defending winner at Kansas, and he starts right where he leaves off, trying to get his 5th pole of the year.
We also got a couple of rookie drivers to the series coming in who are working their way up through the series. J.D. Laird is currently sitting in that 4th position right now, along with Nick Hansen in the 7th position. So keep an eye on these drivers here tonight to see how well they will do throughout the duration of this race. So it's going to be an interesting night.
We certainly do have our fair share or new crop of fresh drivers as far as this series is concerned. Of course, JD being one of them. He currently sits in 4th right now. As you see, a little bit of issues there for Richard Sprague Jr., who crosses the line. That was his 2nd qualifying lap, so unfortunately he is last on the board, and he will likely stay there 8/10 off the provisional pole roughly. But a couple of new names to speak of in the series. Nick Hansen right now is in 7th. And just, it's a nice thing to see this league growing. It's we're kind of later in the year, Taylor, but it's nice to see a lot of young guns come out and want to contend in this series.
Of course, and it's going to be interesting to see how well they'll do this season, even though there's only a few races left in the season. But when they come back for the new season, of how well they will be able to grow and progress when we kick it off next time.
See if they're able to do that. The last couple of seconds will roll off the clock here at Texas. We'll see an immediate, there you see it right before your very eyes, a very quick weather change to evening time here at Texas. A nice new setting for us, and it's going to change the track a little bit for these drivers, but I'm sure they'll be up to tackle it. We'll go ahead and take a look at your starting lineup for tonight. You see Brian Mercurio to the top of the board once again, 5th pole award of the season in what is now his 8th start. He's been awfully strong and looking to carry that momentum from Kansas last week to this pole award. Ryan Vargas from the NASCAR Xfinity Series, his TikTok Chevrolet will start the outside of row number 1. It'll be Brad Perez, who slowly marched his way through the field last week. He'll look to do a little bit better tonight. He starts from 3rd. JD Laird is in 4th. Will Rogers will roll off from 5th. Jake Fisher is in 6th. One of the newcomers we were alluding to, Nick Hansen, he starts in 7th. Nick Olson will start in 8th. Preston Pardus, another NASCAR Xfinity Series contender this year, starts in 9th. And Avery Schwalm will round out the top 10.
Starting in 11th will be Kyle Riley, followed by Will Barbagaletta in 12th. Nate Stewart will be starting in the 13th position, followed by Zachary Sullivan in 14th. Elliot Henderson will be starting in 15th, followed by Peter Akumana in 16th. Tristan Hagenstein will be starting in the 17th position, followed by Hayden Ruffin in 18th. Eric Keff will be starting in 19th, with Gabe Herschel rounding out your top 20.
21st will go to Kyle Porifke. 22nd will go to Chad Mikas. 23rd is Ethan Ball. 24th starting position goes to Aaron Hale. 25th will be Austin Moore. 26th goes to Justin Malillo. 27th, he was awfully competitive. We spoke to him in an interview last week, but starting behind the 8 ball in this one. Austin Drake rolling off from 27th. 28th goes to Edwin Mendez. 29th to Jonathan Palmieri. And 30th is Briar Fritz.
31st will go to Richard Sprague Jr., and he's the last car to take time here tonight. Michael Frisk will be starting in the 32nd position. Andrew Schwartz will be starting in 33rd. Warren Rosario will be starting in 34th. And rounding out your 35-car field tonight, Joey Stone.
And Michael P. Frisch going to have to make the long climb from 32nd, but we know he was able to do the same thing last week. But 100 laps to go for this one. We'll see 100 circuits around, and what is a pretty unique setting here with the sunset over turn 1 here at Texas. You'll be barreling off into the press box, and whenever the sun kind of glistening behind us, it'll be a nice little or very aesthetically pleasing, I guess, so to speak. But 100 circuits. As far as tire limits that you have to be concerned about, there are 4 sets of tires sitting on pit road. So I'd imagine that tires not exactly going to come into factor here unless we get an onslaught of yellow flags. But at least with the way this series is run, hopefully we will not have to worry about that. So Brian Mercurio and Ryan Vargas going to lead us to the green flag as the iRacing.com pace car going to pull onto the safety of pit road. And will Mercurio once again keep his momentum rolling and get win number 5, or will it be somebody different today? We're about to find up. A great launch for the 41 Chevy out front, and he will get us going here from Texas. We're green flag.
As they head into turn 1, Mercurio has about a 3-car length advantage over the 6 of Ryan Vargas. Here comes the rookie, J.D. Laird. He's going to take contact with Vargas. Will he save it? More cars behind him. Caution is coming out as soon as we come off a turn 2. More cars involved. Preston Pardus and Ryan Vargas getting together as well.
Oh, they're wrecking on the back straightaway here, and that all started in the middle of 1 and 2 as JD was rolling through the center, and I just don't think expected a little bit of I don't know if it was a checkup or just kind of first lap. Let's hope we make it through turn 1 from Ryan Vargas, but big implications here. Many drivers involved in this one, and it's very reminiscent of that accident we saw on lap 1 at Kansas last week, and there you see it. Just, I don't think an aggressive move from JD. Ryan actually escapes it pretty well, but then you see contact once again. The 17, the 90 of Preston Pardus get together. That's a little bit of right front damage for Ryan Vargas, and early trouble very early on for some of our contenders up front.
Yeah, that was a little bit aggressive right there, making that tap in the middle of 1 and 2, trying to maybe run a little bit of a higher line for that number 90 of JD Laird, because that's just too early to be doing stuff like that right now. Actually, that's car number 23, so apologies on that, but we'll have to see what the officials say about this. So we're under caution once again here as we are completing lap number 2. And let's see if a couple of cars are going to come down pit road to get some damage repair, or will they come out and stay on the track? Ryan Vargas is going to come down pit road along with several other cars who were heavily damaged after that incident on lap 1.
Well, there were a couple of cars involved. It honestly wasn't as big as you may have thought. It was at the very front of the field, obviously between J.D. Laird, who you can see probably more damage on the nose of his machine than Vargas has to really reckon with. Brad Perez, you can see behind them, he checked up and tried to give Vargas as much room as possible to save that car. He unfortunately got run into the back of when that checkup happened. I can't remember exactly who was behind Brad Perez there, but there was really nowhere for that driver to go. So 3 cars will sit on pit road. I would imagine each taking repairs. I don't think you would take a set of tires right now. You haven't seen the jack go up on any of these machines. You see Preston Pardis get away, but for what could have been a massive wreck, only about 3 or 4 cars where that all started in the second position, only 3 or 4 get wrapped up in it.
Yeah, unfortunate for those drivers. So we'll have to see what they can do to get their cars repaired and get back out on the track. I'm looking to see if our drivers have come back. Nope. J.R. Laird, along with Brad Perez, is still out on pit road. They're now just leaving pit road as we speak. As for Ryan Vargas and Preston Pardis, Preston's now put 1 lap down, along with, so far everybody else is currently, he's the only car 1 lap down here tonight, as Ryan Vargas has joined the track now before we go back green flag.
And those drivers are able to escape. Of course, you have to think early on with the potential of a lot of early cautions. You may think about losing a lap here early on. May not be so bad if you're able to get the lucky dog the next time by. It's also worth mentioning that that yellow was thrown automatically by the iRacing service rather than race control. So obviously somebody was spun sideways enough that it triggered something to bring out that caution flag, although it was honestly a pretty nice save by both Ryan Vargas and the 38 of Brad Perez. It was really the damage on the back straightaway that I think you have to worry about, especially for the 90 and for the 6 of Ryan Vargas. We've seen that these cars, they may have composite bodies on them, but they're particularly sensitive, especially in that right front quarter panel, for setups that tend to run a little bit tight over the long run. We'll have to see how Vargas and the rest of those drivers are able to cope with that. But it's no trouble for Brian Mercurio, who was out front and well beyond anything that happened directly behind him in turns 1 and 2. So nothing for that 41 Ford to have to worry about just yet. But as we move a couple of drivers back, Jake Fisher, Nick Olson, Will Rogers will make up your top 4. As we'll try to do it once again. We'll take the green on lap number 5 and see if we can't go a little bit longer. You see a couple of statistics right there as far as the track temperature is concerned. 85 degrees, so a little bit hotter than what we saw last week at Kansas. 84, the ambient temperature, and very high winds here at Texas, blowing north at 16 miles per hour. So Mercurio, once again, he gets another great jump on the restart, but also not a bad one from Jake Fisher, and will once again be green flag racing here at Texas.
As they go into turn 1, the first battle is a battle for 3rd position between Nick Olson and Will Rogers, which Olson will prevail and take the 3rd spot away as they come off of turn number 2. Both drivers have made it cleanly. No other incidents, though, behind them. We go through turn 2 for the first time pretty clean and green.
Pretty clean up front. A couple of cars further on back in the pack running too wide, but very quickly, almost like you saw at Kansas, Taylor, that everybody's going to want to go to the top side. Well, we flipped the script this week. Everybody's going to want to be on the bottom side of the racetrack. There's just newly paved racetrack here at Texas. There's just so much groove so much grip rather on the bottom of the racetrack, and there's just not a whole lot you can do. Obviously, in real life, you have the addition of PJ1 to try to make the outside more competitive, but with the flat banking in 1 and 2, you'd be hard pressed to see somebody go on the outside and make a pass tonight.
Yeah, it's not going to really be happening here tonight, running that top side. It's going to be mostly on the bottom, right below that, or right on that white line through the middle of turns 1 and 2. Nobody's really doing that. As if you go see a little bit further back, a battle for position between the 07 of Gabe Herschel and the 63 of Eric Kemp. They were able to go side by side as the 07 of Gabe Herschel will take over that position. That is the battle for 12th position. Meanwhile, the rest of the field is still about single file for the most part. A couple of drivers trying to make a pass on the outside, such as the 37 of Elliot Henderson, who to no avail could not complete the pass off of turn 4.
Elliott tried to do it, but again, it's just so tough to try and find a way to do it. But also, you look at turn one here at Texas, and you can even see it on board right there with Elliott. Just what a unique exit it is. It's so wide off of turn two. If you barely get onto the gas early, you're going to be ailing and having to check up and headed right towards that wall. But if you're able to get off of it well, you see exactly what Henderson was able to pull off right there. Uses the exit off of turn two to not only gain a spot, but now pulls up about a car length in front of Nick Hansen, and now Hansen kind of falling back. Once you get trapped on that high side, it's hard to find your way down, as now he's even going to have a battle now for 10th, or the 11th position rather, with Peter Acumena.
He is. He's going to go side by side with Peter as they go to turns 3 and 4. Acumena is still on the inside of him as they still try to hold us off on the outside, but it's going to be to no avail as the 99 of Tristan Hagenstein is also going to try to get to the inside of Nick Hansen to take that position away from him to break into the top 10, but they'll go side by side once again, and Nick tried to make the outside work, but to no avail, and here comes Tristan Hagenstein to take over that 10th position off turn 2.
And Hagenstein, although Hansen will have the run down the back straightaway here in 3 and 4, and it's partly what makes Texas such an interesting racetrack. You'll see Hansen, he'll surrender that position so that he can get back to the bottom of the racetrack, but it's something about how 1 and 2 can very easily affect 3 and 4, and how that exit of 2, because it's so unique, because you can get off of it either very well or very poorly. 3 and 4, much more banking, wide open, so a mistake off of 2, it's almost worse if you think about it, Taylor, because obviously 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 were very similar here at Texas in terms of how you could get off your lifting points, when you could get back into the throttle. But now with turn 2 being so unique, it makes it a mistake that much more difficult to try and overcome, because you're nearly going wide open through 1 and 2, or through 3 and 4 rather, on a regular lap. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Here's a pass for the lead. Jake Fisher looking to take the top spot.
He's going to try to take the top spot away from Brian Mercurio as they go down the back straightaway into turn 3 and 4. New race leader, Jake Fisher in that number 84. Nick Olson in the 25 tried to get to the inside of Mercurio, but couldn't make it work. Now Fisher goes wide off of turn 4, and that's going to put Mercurio to the inside as they go side by side across the line. Mercurio will lead that lap as they go into turn 1. Brian is doing everything to use the inside to his advantage to take the lead back away from Jake Fisher in that number 84.
And that was just a case of Fisher had to work Mercurio over for a couple of laps, but you see barely a mistake in 3 and 4 with how wide open these cars are through there. It ended up costing him as he clipped the apron through the middle of 3 and 4, and that was enough for Mercurio, who had just gotten passed by Fisher for the race lead, to get back up underneath him and defeat him for the race lead, at least for the time being. However, Fisher now under assault from Nick Olson, who looks to the bottom of 1 and 2, and Olson in that crit machine looks like he's going to have enough. He's going to easily get by Jake Fisher, and so move Olson up into second, and that's how quick a mistake can catch you. Fisher had the race lead. He messes up in 3 and 4 for just a moment, and all of a sudden he's back to third.
Yes, indeed. Just one mistake running that high groove can cost you valuable positions and time on your competition here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. As they dive it back into one, a little further back, you have Kyle Riley in 4th position with Will Barbagaletta in 5th position chasing him down. Kyle Riley had a little bit of damage from that lap 1 incident off of turn 2, so he is currently having a tough time trying to keep the car going, as he will now be passed by that number 27 of Will Barbagaletta and move him back to P5.
Yeah, move Barbagaletta back there as he is running in the, or actually the 4th position rather, is Kyle Riley that gets bounced on back into 5th. And Riley, another driver, along with Barbagaletta, will have to say here that he has done a pretty nice job here. Started back in 12th, and you know, with how these cars run, you typically don't see a lot of moves early on in the run. With how important tires eventually become and how saving them can help you so much here, it's hard to see a lot of early movers early on in the run. It's typically about lap 20 or so you really start to see the comers and goers who's able to save their equipment. But Will doing a fantastic job here, doing it quickly and trying to run down these race leaders. That last time by, he was just a touch quicker than some of our race leaders.
He certainly was. Last time around, he ran a 30.408. So he is right on the same lap time as our top three right now. Currently, the fastest driver last time around out on the racetrack has to go to our race leader, Brian Mercurio. He ran a 30.369 as they come across the line here. And looking at timing and scoring, he's still one of the fastest. Actually, sorry, 31.342. So looking at another lap time. But he's still doing a great job here tonight, as they're going down to still the top three under a blanket, less than a tenth or half a second apart from each other.
Half a second apart, and this top three really starting to do a number on this field as they continue to kind of pull away. We mentioned Will catching them momentarily, but you see some good racing on your screen right there. You take a look around the Michael Frisch machine. Of course, he started all the way back in the 32nd position, and he's already cut his way through the field up to 11th, but the caution flag is going to come out, and for where we'll have to see, I think it may be on the front straightaway, and yeah, I see a couple of cars. Nate Stewart is one of them, who's pretty heavily damaged, but that started well in front of him. I believe it was contact with Richard Sprague Jr. and perhaps Briar Fritz that got into the outside wall off turn 4 there.
Yeah, Briar Fritz got into the wall coming off of turn 4, made heavy contact with the 00 of Sprague Jr., and unfortunately their nights are probably going to be done here. And this is about the time we're looking around to seeing drivers considering making a pit stop if need be, if a caution came out, because since they have 4 sets of tires, that means they can make 4 pit stops throughout the duration of tonight's race. So around lap 25 is a good opportunity for them to get some fresh tires.
It is, and you see the machine of Briar Fritz just got a little tight there off of 4, and unfortunately for Richard Sprague Jr., there's really nowhere for him to go as 12 was trying to catch it off the outside wall, and you see you get just a little too far out of the groove here. It's just such a significant loss of grip that it wasn't enough for Fritz to hold on there. Only a 2-car incident, though, through the infield grass here at Texas, but it looks like what you were saying, Taylor, whether people were going to come down pit road. We talked about having 4 tire sets. Well, you'd think that'd be about a 20-lap run on each. It's lap 21, and relatively the whole field is coming down on pit road.
Now the question will be, who will win the race off pit road here tonight, as we're waiting and seeing who will win that race off. And it looks like the 40 of Edwin Mendez had won the race off, but I don't believe he finished his pit stop. So we'll have to take a look at timing and scoring to see if he actually did. Nick Olson, the first car who completed a pit stop, will win the race off pit road, followed by Brian Mercurio, Jake Fisher, and Will Barbagaletta.
And a nice job there from Nick Olson. Of course, Brian Mercurio had the top spot after qualifying, so he gets the benefit of that #1 pit stall all night long, but Olson able to do enough with it behind him to get both on and off of pit road relatively quickly. So a nice job by his crew. And I know I may have to go back and see this. Oh, no, Olson took 4 tires. We know Olson is one, I've raced with him a while on here. He's definitely somebody that will be willing to take the gamble and perhaps go on 2 there. But he also had some track position as well. So don't think, there was anything up his sleeve up to this point. So most of our drivers, 3 sets of tires remaining is what they have in this run. So running side by side as we work under the 2nd caution flag of the evening here at VSCRA's coverage at Texas Motor Speedway. We'll go side by side as we pace around, and we'll bring you coverage when we go back green. So don't miss a minute. We'll be right back.
Field in the hands of 2013 Kansas winner Nick Ottinger, as we say, let's go playoff racing at Kansas. He obviously lost a ton of time, but the fresh tires in his favor now. Keegan Leahy going to go back to the race lead. And just as it looked like all hope was lost for Nick Ottinger, a yellow has changed this race. The 32 is into the outside wall, and Keegan Leahy is destroyed. Here comes Ottinger. He'll snake to the outside. What a move for the 25 Chevy, but it's all behind the race leader of Nick Ottinger, who's going to take the win at Kansas and punch his ticket to the Homestead finale.
And back with you here from the Texas Motor Speedway. One car did stay out. However, Avery Schwalm is looking to get the wave around, currently scored 2 laps down. One driver has gone to the garage and is out of the event. Preston Pardis, after being involved in that yellow on the back straightaway on lap 1, he's going to go ahead and decide to call it a night. So Pardis, 9th starting, Taylor, and 35th. He's already out of this thing early. It's unfortunate to see.
It certainly is a tough break for Preston Pardis here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. Hopefully, if he is going to be running this weekend at Texas, he'll have a little bit of a better result for him there. But we're about to go back green flag racing here, just about at the lap 24 mark of 100 laps tonight here at Texas. Nick Olson will be the race leader, followed by Brian Mercurio, Jake Fisher, Will Barbagaletta, and Elliot Henderson, your top 5 once we turn them loose here again.
Well, and we'll see who is ready to be on the march. I know we were talking about a couple of drivers who have slowly worked their way through the field. I'm looking at timing and scoring. Chad Mikas has done a nice job, started back in 22nd and has worked his way up into the 7th spot. Of course, we mentioned Austin Moore, 25th to 9th. And of course, Michael Frisch did not pull a time in qualifying. Started back in 32nd, has already worked his way up into the 11th position. So a couple of drivers who have been on the march, we'll have to see how much further they can go. They'll all be chasing Nick Olson, who won the race off of pit road and will have the opportunity to lead us and get us restarted in this race. So we'll take the green flag with about 77 laps to go. Olson on the binders. Green flag is out as he puts the loud pedal down, and he's able to get away. Can Mercurio get down to clear Fisher? He does. However, side-by-side battle for 4th behind them. Kyle Riley able to utilize the bottom lane, and he's trying to move his way by the 27 machine.
He certainly will try as they go down the back straightaway right now. Barbagaletta does have the outside momentum to keep him side by side with Kyle Riley, but Riley to the inside will make the pass.
Riley, he just about clipped the apron there as he got a little loose, and so we're actually going to see Barbagaletta hold off Kyle Riley on the top side. So the 27 able to move his way up into 4th as he defends against Kyle Riley, who got just a little sideways on these cold tires. But back up front, you see the line that Olson is taking down the back straightaway, and Mercurio is going to decide to go for the race lead anyway. So Olson was running the middle of the back stretch here at Texas, and Taylor, that's something that you'll see a couple of times. You have to be very defensive up there in the lead if you want to keep it, and Mercurio is going to be able to go on by and take the lead. But I think that's a theme that we're going to see, especially later on in the night if we get some late restarts, that blocking almost down to the white line on the back straightaway is not out of the picture.
It certainly is not here tonight. We'll be going to be seeing drivers throwing a massive block throughout the race here tonight, especially when we get ever closer and closer to the end of this race here right now. But we just saw Nick Olson be the first one to throw a major block, and let's see if Mercurio will go on to the defensive to hold off the hard charger of Nick Olson, along with Jake Fisher and Will Barbagaletta, as the top 4 are working their way through the middle of turns 1 and 2. They're nose to tail as they come off turn 2. Nick Olson tries to take a peek to the inside. Mercurio, though, is still your race leader, holding strong over the rest of the field.
He is, and he nearly got into the wall off of turn 2, and that's just how quickly it can turn in an instant here. Olson, a better run through 3 and 4, but even here down the front straightaway, the leader has so much control, can go right next to the infield grass to try and defend that position. I've even seen here at Texas a couple of drivers who use that grass as a passing lane. Doesn't often work out for them, but they tried nonetheless. But Mercurio able to hold on. Olson is right in tow, but how about Fisher and Barbagaletta, both who are able to pull up to the battle for the race lead? So they work nearly nose to tail for the top 3, and Barbagaletta just about a car length back.
4 cars under a blanket as they come across the start-finish line to complete lap 28 here at Texas Motor Speedway. Elliott Henderson has the front row seat as he is trying to hold off for that 5th position. Meanwhile, if we go a little further back, we have a gaggle of cars. Michael Frisch, Zachary Sullivan, Tristan Hagenstein, Kyle Riley, JD Laird, Ryan Vargas. They're all right there battling it out for position.
Fortunately for Riley, he was all the way up here in 5th just a couple of laps ago, got a little loose in 3 and 4 a couple of laps prior to this, and he's already fallen back a couple of spots. He's now into the clutches of Ryan Vargas, who, as we mentioned, was somebody who has been marching ever since the drop of the green flag, started in 2nd, got drop kicked all the way back, has some pretty significant rear end damage on his TikTok machine, but nevertheless, he is trying to get back into the top 10. He's going to be able to do so right here. Riley looks like he's about to go ahead and let Vargas by, gives him a lot of room on the bottom side of the racetrack, and both Vargas and it looks like Austin Moore as well, they're going to try to work their way into 10th and 11th around the 62.
As they go into turns 1 and 2, Ryan Vargas will almost complete the pass as they come off of turn 2. Will Riley still trying to use that outside to try to keep the momentum up, but he will surrender that position to Ryan Vargas as they go down the back straightaway. Now Riley will look to the inside, but we see Vargas shuts the door on him as they go through 3 and 4.
Oh, and that's going to create a stack up behind them as a couple of drivers had to get on the binders and nearly spun it out. And, you know, that is a ripple effect, Taylor, that you saw Vargas. You have to make that block in the 3 and 4. And entering so low, that gets everybody stacked up behind you. You have to check up to be able to stay on the bottom when you enter that low. So it'll allow a battle that was between about 4 or 5 cars now to balloon into about 10, all in a single file line riding behind Ryan Vargas.
It certainly is. Makes it a little bit more interesting and exciting for the viewers here tonight watching the race at Texas as they go alpha turn 4 down the front straightaway. Vargas will retain that 10th position, but Kyle Riley, Austin Moore, who gets right on the back bumper of Kyle Riley as they go to the middle of turns 1 and 2. He'll tuck it to the outside and see if he can make the pass, but he will now start dropping back as Nick Hansen will get to the inside of Austin Moore. Slight contact with the two as they go down the back straightaway.
And Hansen, one of the newcomers to this league, is I think he just gave a reminder to the 24 about, hey, I'm here, and he's able to go back down to the bottom of the racetrack. After being involved, you see just a very slight crinkle on the right front of his machine, but honestly, I don't think it's anything that 76 Ford Mustang team is quite too worried about, as it looks like he is rolling right now on the bottom of the racetrack. He's able to pull up to Vargas all the way to the back of Kyle Riley, who was able to make his way by Ryan Vargas there on the front straightaway. Now Vargas to go to the bottom to try and take it back.
As we see, Vargas will complete the pass as they come off of turn number 4. Here comes Will Rogers as well. He'll get to the back bumper of Nick Hansen as they go down the front straightaway. Here comes Hansen to the inside of Kyle Riley. Will he complete the pass? As they'll go side by side. Riley trying to work the outside to keep the momentum up, but I think Hansen's going to try and make it work. No, he gets a little bit too loose. They're going to go side by side down the back straightaway.
And Will Rogers got tight there. You can see the commotion as they try to work around the 69 or 55 on the car machine that got a little bit tight there off of turn 2, and he's going to lose a handful of spots here. JD Laird, Brad Perez, Nick Hansen, all able to go by the driver of the 55, who just got a little bit tight off of turn 2. Vargas able to go on by for Riley, as you mentioned. Hansen now trying to pounce on Kyle Riley, and it is worth mentioning, I know it happened a couple laps ago, Taylor. Olsen was able to take the race lead from Brian Mercurio. Wasn't much of a battle, but of course that's of note. It looks like Mercurio just saving his tires behind Olsen. He lets him have it for now, but I don't think we can take our eyes and ears off this battle. Here comes Laird to the bottom of Brad Perez here as they cross the stripe.
Here they go down the front straightaway, heading into turn 1. We will see JD Laird make the pass complete on Brad Perez. Will Rogers will try to follow suit as Brad is stuck on the outside row as they come off of turn number 2. Here comes the 13 of Nate Stewart to give a push to the 69 of Will Rogers. Down the back straightaway they will go. Perez still hold the nose over Will Rogers, but Rogers will prevail on the inside as Nate Stewart will slot in behind.
And Stewart, we noticed a little bit, just the ever so slightest bit of damage on the nose of his U.S. Air Force Chevrolet, newcomer to the racing series, or at least hasn't been here the last couple of weeks. But he is back here at Texas, and you often think of him as a road course racer. He's trying to get it done here on the oval. As now he's going to peek to the bottom of Rogers. Rogers will shut the door. What will Stewart do about it? He's going to give. Oh man, they nearly make contact as the bump and run being utilized here at Texas. And oh boy, Rogers had a decision to make there, and I think he just gave Stewart the spot before he got turned around.
Smart move right there. It's still too early on to be trying to get turned for a position right here at Texas Motor Speedway. But that little incident caused a big checkup where the rest of the field will catch up to the back bumper of both Will Rogers and Nate Stewart as they go down the back straightaway. Here comes the 8 of Jonathan Palermi, who will go to the outside as Brad Perez will look to the inside of the 8 as they come off turn number 4. It is still going to be side-by-side action as the 98 of Warren Rosario will look on.
And Palmieri stuck there on the top side now. He's kind of the one left out of the freight train right now on the bottom side of the racetrack. However, once again up front, the battle for the lead is starting to get closer and closer after Olsen was able to hang on for about the last 10 or 12 laps. It looks like Mercurio has had enough, and he is going to go on by. Not much of a fight put up by Nick Olsen, so Brian Mercurio, once again, he'll take the lead.
Brian Mercurio back up in front of the field. Nick Olsen is still trying to see if he can hang tight with our race leader as they come out of turn 1 and 2. As they come off turn 2 right now, they have about a 1.7 advantage lead over the third place driver of Will Barbagaletta, who's pretty much in no man's land. Jake Fisher's another 6/10 behind him. And then that's when you start to see the rest of the field start to get single file and working their way through the field. Ryan Vargas right now has moved up to 8th position as he's trying to catch up to the top 7.
Well, and Vargas leads a line of cars, and this is where the racing has really gotten interesting tonight. You see a little bit behind Vargas. Once again, Kyle Riley hanging tough on the high side, but has started to fall back just a little bit more. You see Nate Stewart is able to go on by, so move that 13th U.S. Air Force Chevrolet up into the 11th position as he works by Kyle Riley. But this is a great little race here going on, Taylor. Of course, the top 3 or 4 have kind of made a distance on the field, but you can see right here, they are still running nose to tail from about Ryan Vargas on back. So about 8 through 20 seconds, still separated by just about 2 seconds.
Very intense battle. In fact, if you go right around Nate Stewart, Kyle Riley, Will Rogers, Warren Rosario, I mean, it is a gaggle of cars just battling and jockeying for positions as they come off of turn 2. Down the back straightaway will go. Riley watching on as Nate Stewart tries to get around the 23 of J.D. Laird as they come off of turn 4. Still to no avail. Here comes Riley. He'll take a peek to the outside as they come to try to gain position. And no avail right now as he will try to follow suit of the 13 of Nate Stewart.
And Stewart able to go to the bottom side. There's a little bit of a gap building in front of him, and Ryan Vargas is kind of being chased down right now by Tristan Hagenstein, who has very quietly worked his way through the field. 17th starting spot. He's up to the 9th position, and Hagenstein trying to do his best to just kind of run down quietly through Ryan Vargas. You can see the large gap between Vargas, who runs in 8th, and Chad Mikus in front of him, who runs in the 7th position. It's about 2 seconds between 7th and 8th right now, but this battle for 8th is getting good. Hagenstein has pulled up to the back bumper, looking high, looking low, not able to find a way by yet, but that's going to bring Hagenstein and Zachary Sullivan into this battle for 8th in a couple of moments.
Here they go into turns 3 and 4. Right now, Ryan Vargas holding strong over Tristan Hagenstein and Zachary Sullivan. J.D. Laird, though, is watching and waiting, trying to see if he can find a way to get around the 51 of Zachary Sullivan to get back into the top 10 here tonight at Texas Motor Speedway, but to no avail. He'll take a peek to the inside, but Sullivan will keep him behind as they come off of turn 2.
Well, and JD trying to roll the bottom side. You can see he pulls right up to the back of Sullivan, and that's kind of what you have to do here at Texas is roll along the bottom. It looks like the damage on the nose of Laird's machine is not hindering him all too much. Of course, I'm sure if you ask the driver any little bit of speed that they lose, they're going to feel it in that race car, and they'll let you know about it. But despite how bent in the nose of that Camaro is, JD doing a nice job right there, able to calmly move by by Zachary Sullivan right there. He'll move up into the top 10. And, that's not something small. Obviously, JD kind of at the center of that lap 1 caution that involved he and Ryan Vargas. But with that nose damage, all things considered, he's done a nice job putting together a rebound effort.
He certainly has. He has recovered quite nicely, getting back into the top 10 here tonight at Texas. As they come across the start-finish line right now, actually, he is actually running some very consistent lap times. Last time around actually was probably one of his slower laps, as he ran a 31.87. Only a couple of drivers ahead of him ran a little bit faster, and that includes our 2 race leaders, Brian Mercurio, Michael Frisk, and Nick Olson.
And Mercurio up there, it is worth mentioning that Frisch has really just kind of worked his way up through the front of the field, was one of the drivers that did not take a qualifying time. And we haven't really mentioned him in a lot of those battles. We were talking about Jake Fisher, Elliot Henderson, Will Barbagaletta just a couple of moments ago. But Frisch is running times very comparable right now to the race leaders who are still spread out. It's Mercurio out by about a second and a half, give or take, over Nick Olson. But Frisch right now doing his own part to try and run down the race leaders. Not quite the pace that Mercurio has, but he is starting to slowly reel in Nick Olson for second.
He certainly is, but meanwhile, back up front to our race leader, Brian Mercurio. He's starting to catch up to the tail end of the field, putting some cars a lap down right now. First car he's about to try to do that to is going to be to the 17 of Avery Schwalm in their Ford Mustang as they come out of turns 4. He's going to be putting him down a lap momentarily.
You will lap traffic for some of the race leaders that will come into play here as we've reached about lap 30 in this run. We're about halfway through this race, and I guess that'll bring us to our midway race break. Let's go ahead and give you a full field rundown here. Mercurio in the top spot. Nick Olson is in second. Michael Frisch runs in the 3rd position. Will Barbagaletta in 4th. Jake Fisher runs in 5th. Elliot Henderson in 6th. It's Chad Mikas in 7th. Ryan Vargas is still hanging on in front of a hornet's nest for 8th. 9th will go to Tristan Hagenstein, and 10th is JD Laird.
In 11th, you'll find Warren Rosario, and not in the 12th position, Tristan Hagenstein. 13th, you'll find the 51 of Zachary Sullivan as he gets turned by the 13 of Nate Stewart for that 14th position. No caution just yet, as it just comes out now, and we are under caution here for the second time at Texas.
And as we were making our way through our full field rundown, contact between Zachary Sullivan and Nate Stewart, as I believe it, Stewart thought that he was under the 51, and I'm sure there's a disagreement there between he and both the 51. We'll have to take a look at the replay and kind of see, what fault is there or what have you. We'll try to quickly run through here before we start green flag pit stops. Rogers in 16th, Stone in 17th, 18th goes to... Or actually, we're kind of having time and scoring refresh on us here as Sullivan is being scored further back. But Stone in 16th, Hale in 17th, Hansen is scored in 18th, 19th to Jonathan Palmieri, and Justin Malillo will round out your top 20. However, let's put that on hold for a second. Let's see what happened here.
Here we go. We will see the 13 and 8 Stewart. He'll take a peek to the inside of the 51. And I think he just tried to overshoot it a little bit, get to the inside and just try to hug it. Zachary Sullivan, though, did come across his nose and spun him around, as you will then see Nate Stewart go around as well. And here's, looks like also the 38 car of Brad Perez getting involved in some other incidents as more cars got involved in the final act of this accident.
Well, it looks like Malillo was doing enough just to be able to squeeze by there as he's able to kind of lock him up and do a half spin to make it through. But there you see the spin of Sullivan right there. And again, it's hard. And I'm looking back through my personal replay now. It's very, very difficult to determine if Stewart really had a nose there or if he just kind of ran into the back of him. You see right there, one driver just kind of ARCA braking his way through. I believe that I don't think I identified the number there, but you see Brad Perez, obviously he gets tagged there as he was trying to slow up for that incident. Another one that really Perez had nowhere to go, and that's going to be some crippling damage on Brad Perez's machine. But again, this is hard to see. You see Perez gets in there. The 24 comes in and pounds in. And I believe he even had one other car kind of roll by there. You see him in the outside wall in front of that Texas sign on the high side here in 1 and 2. So as much as it comes into play, Taylor, it's hard to pass. These guys get desperate. And I think you saw it right there with Nate Stewart. Thought he had a nose underneath the 51. And, I'm sure he thought he did, but I don't know if I saw position enough there for him to whip him around.
If he had a nose, it was barely there by the looks of it, as he was still turned around the 51 of Zachary Sullivan. It's a little unfortunate what happened, but we're going to continue here racing under the lights here, as it's starting to get a little bit dark out here at Texas Motor Speedway. Lights are starting to get ablaze all around the circuit here at Texas, as we're about to go back green flag racing here momentarily, as we have completed lap 55, or actually 54 of the 100 laps. So just around the same time we saw the first pit stop, everybody else has come down pit road. Brian Mercurio, your winner off the pit road, followed by Nick Olson, Will Barbagaleta, Chad Mikas, and Elliot Henderson, your top 5.
Actually, why don't we try to give you the rest of the rundown here? J.D. Laird is in 6th, Andrew Schwartz 7th, Warren Rosario back from 34th. We haven't mentioned his name much tonight. He's in 8th, Tristan Hagestein in 9th, Kyle Riley is in 10th, Ryan Vargas is in 11th, Nate Stewart is in 12th, Will Rogers 13th, Joey Stone 14th, Nick Hansen in 15th, Aaron Hale 16th, Gabe Herschel's in 17th, 18th goes to Austin Drake, 19th is to Peter Acumano, and 20th is Jonathan Palmieri.
Jake Fisher is in 21st, followed by Ethan Ball in 22nd. Hayden Ruffin is in 23rd, followed by Austin Moore in 24th. Eric Keff is in 25th. Justin Malillo is in 26th. Edwin Mendez is sitting in 27th, followed by Michael Friss in 28th. 29th is Zachary Sullivan. Brad Perez is the first car, one lap down in 30th. The rest of the field goes as follows. Kyle Porkifly is in 31st, with Avery Schwalm in 32nd. Richard Sprague, the junior, is in 33rd. Briar Fritz, 34th. Preston Pardis is also out of the race. He will finish 35th.
It is also worth mentioning as the lights are going to go off the pace car that, we were talking about Michael Frisch and his march through the field. Well, guess what? He got caught speeding on pit road. That is why he is going to have to start at the tail end of the field. So he marched through the field once. It took him about half the race to get up there, and he's going to have the second half to try and make up for this mistake. So tough luck there for Frisch, who would have exited pit road 3rd and been right where he wanted to be all night, right in the battle for the race lead with both Mercurio and Nick Olson. But unfortunately for him, he's going to have to try and overcome that speeding penalty that comes at this part of the race. So for the most part, 2 sets are off of the 4 that these drivers had on pit road to start. So they do have the ability to stop about 2 more times. You see the track temperature ever so slightly creeping on down throughout the night. Still 84 degrees on track, but as the sun continues to set behind the grandstands here in No Limits, Texas, it is starting to get just a little bit cooler. 60-mile-per-hour winds, Taylor. I got to say, we had 2-mile-per-hour winds in Kansas, then we have 16 here at Texas. So perhaps a little flip-flopped around than what you would have predicted. But nonetheless, Brian Mercurio going to get us going once again. Pace car is on pit road. Once again, Mercurio and Olson, your top 2. Barbagaleta and Mikas in row number 2. Another outstanding start for Brian Mercurio will get him away and into turn 1. Relatively unchallenged. They're side by side for second, though.
As we see, though, Nick Olson will shut the door on Will Barbagaleta as they come off of turn number 2. Barbagaleta is trying to get around the 25 of Nick Olson, as Chad Mikas will follow suit in that number 88 Chevy Camaro as they dive it into turn 3 and 4. Nose to tail, but Brian Mercurio has checked out of his own zip code right now. He has about a 4/10 of a second lead over the field.
He does. He's starting to make his ways. You see a side-by-side battle there. Andrew Schwartz, another one of our kind of late comers through that last run that we had, started all the way in the back and, of course, was making his way through the field. It was up to 7th, but unfortunately, he's just stuck on the outside right now, and everybody in lockstep formation running right along the bottom. And unfortunately for Schwartz, there's just nowhere to go. He started back in 7th on this restart. restart, and I think even in one lap, Taylor, we'll see timing and scoring refresh here. 7th all the way back to 11th in one lap, all the way back to 12th now as they work it into 1 and 2, and he's still not done.
He certainly is. I want to go back up to the race lead because Nick Olsen made a pass on the outside for the race lead off of turn number 1, something we haven't seen hardly all night here at Texas Motor Speedway. But Nick Olsen will once again take the race lead away from the 41 of Brian Mercurio. Will Barbagaletta has also caught up to this battle, so we have a 3-car battle for the race lead.
We do, and you got to think back to last week. Mercurio wasn't all too worried about losing that race lead, that clean air at the beginning of the run. If you can remember, it was Austin Drake who was battling with Mercurio last week, and Mercurio just kind of let Drake run out there, knew that he may run a little bit harder on his tires, and wasn't too worried about being able to run them back down. We'll have to see if the case is the same this week as he lets Olsen escape with about a half a second lead right now over himself and Barbagaletta. But now the 27, he's looking to maybe try to move up here and get one spot better on the podium. He was looking for second there in 1 and 2, kind of lost it on the exit, but he and Micus both starting to make some ground up on Mercurio.
Here they go through turns 3 and 4, lined up nose to tail with Brian Mercurio as they come off of turn number 4. Down the front straightaway they'll go. Barbagaletta will take a peek to the outside to see if he can do the same thing that Nick Olsen in the 25 did through 1 and 2. Can't quite make it work. Chad Micus, though, watches on as they come off of turn number 2. Still nose to tail right now as they're starting to check out from the rest of the field. Elliott Henderson, the next car, about a half a second back.
Y'all work in lockstep formation there on the bottom side of the racetrack. Mercurio about a 10th off of the race leader of Nick Olsen that last time. So Olsen starting to make his way by. You see Olsen and, Vargas and Riley right there who were battling for just a moment. I feel like we've said those two names a lot tonight, being side by side. And I don't think they're done just yet, but Riley able to get through into turn 1 relatively hard that time. You got to think Riley, kind of like Ryan Vargas, experiencing a lot of rear end damage. You see it on Ryan Vargas right there. He's got a nice crinkle that was courtesy of JD Laird at the very beginning of that first run. And you look one spot up, you also see almost the same damage on the rear of Kyle Riley. So both of those cars, similar conditions, and they run in a similar spot, 10th and 11th.
They certainly are. They have a little bit of pressure from the 22 of Joey Stone along with the 99 of Tristan Hagenstein as they come off of turn number 2. Vargas will take a peek to the inside as they come off of turn 2 around Kyle Riley, but can't get close enough to make the pass work as they get a little bit of a help from the 22 of Joey Stone as they dive it into 3 and 4. Riley, though, using the outside momentum to keep the position ahead of Vargas as they come off turn number 4 and still will maintain. Here comes Stone to the inside. Vargas throws the block. That caused a little bit of a checkup for the drivers behind them as they cross the start-finish line.
Well, an interesting line that time from Kyle Riley, who entered in the middle and cut it down low. We've seen a lot of defensive driving where drivers will kind of block all the way to the bottom and make sure that they enter as low as possible. But Riley taking a bit of a different approach. He enters in the middle and gets the exit, or at least through the center of 3 and 4 and the exit of turn 4, is able to rock it on forward. So he is able to make his way on forward from Ryan Vargas back there in 11th. However, Hagenstein, he in that battle directly behind them, he moves ahead of Joey Stone. Now he has his eyes set on Ryan Vargas.
Meanwhile, a little bit further up the field, Chad Micus was able to get around Will Barbagaletta for 3rd position. So we now have a new driver inside the podium. Chad Micus now sets his sight on Brian Mercurio for 2nd as they work their way around the circuit.
And Micus has been one of the faster cars on the racetrack that last circuit around, and he does it once again. He was actually the fastest of our top 3. That last lap was Chad Micus. So perhaps the Valvoline Chevrolet late in the going, sun's going down, perhaps it's starting to come to Chad a little bit, this racetrack and this car. So we'll have to see if he continues to march on forward. We saw him stall out in that last run, but didn't have the track position that he enjoys at the moment. You see Elliott Henderson, he's going to fall back a couple of spots there. You see the 98 machine going on by. You see the 13 and Nate Stewart, who's also in that battle. So Rosario, Stewart, and Schwartz all trying to get by. So 98 now, he's on the outside. Now here comes the crossover for Andrew Schwartz on the bottom.
as they'll go side by side down the front straightaway. The 98 of Warren Rosario will look on as they go side by side still. Here comes the 67 of Andrew Schwartz around the 13 of Nate Stewart down the front straightaway, and he has about a car length advantage over that 13 as they come across start-finish line, move Schwartz up to 6th position.
And Schwartz and Stewart both considered road racers, particularly Andrew Schwartz has been able to get it done. In FTF competition, he's been awfully strong this year and flexes his muscles out here at VSCRA in this race. So he's able to pull away. It's about a car length and a half, now maybe 2 car lengths that he's built up over Nate Stewart back there in 7th. They were able to make their way by Warren Rosario, who kind of surrendered that position, ran the middle side of the racetrack and kind of gave those spots up. Stewart gets in a little high. The 98 going to roll on the bottom. He gets a little bit of a run there. This battle for 7th starting to brew as Rosario starting to run down Nate Stewart.
He certainly is as they go down the back straightaway heading into turns 3 and 4. One of our new rookies here for the series. Warren Rosario is starting to close into the back bumper of Nate Stewart. He'll take a peek to the inside as they come across the start-finish line. But these two drivers have been battling it out for quite a couple of laps right now. Rosario will look to the inside in 1, but can't quite make the pass work. He'll drop back about 2 car lengths. Meanwhile, a little further up the road, our 2 other rookies, Will Barbagaletta and J.D. Laird, will do battle. Laird's to the inside of Barbagaletta, but then Barbagaletta goes back up to the high side. They'll still try to be side by side through 3 and 4, but Barbagaletta will shut the door and prevail.
And JDRgraphics.com Chevrolet, we've talked about it multiple times tonight, was involved in that lap 1 incident, but what a drive he has done to recover. And again, what is a beautiful paint scheme. If you know anything about JDR Graphics, you know that is the norm over there with how they do things. So he is trying to work his way. He's now up into the top 5 after what looked like it could be a very tumultuous night after that early contact. He has done a stellar job of keeping that race car out of harm's way since then, and both he and Andrew Schwartz have really pulled up to the back here of Barbagaletta. They've also started to reach the clutches of Chad Mikas, but we'll have to look up front though. Battle for the race lead once again. Mercurio has run back down Nick Olson, and Olson again just can't seem to put up much of a fight as Mercurio goes on by. New leader, it's the 41.
As Mercurio goes back to doing what he does best, leading races here for the Virtual Stock Car Racing Association as they go through the turn 3 and 4, off of turn number 4, down the front straightaway. Mercurio still holds strong over Nick Olson. Chad Mikas, though, he's starting to reel him in a little bit. He's dropped it down to about 0.7 of a second.
Down to 0.7, and it's also worth mentioning we went green back on lap 57. A lot of these drivers came down lap 54, lap 55. The fuel window that I'm showing here is anywhere between about 44 to 46 laps is what these drivers can make on what is 15.88 gallons of gas. They shorten it up a little bit from this league rather than filling it up completely to about 18.7 gallons. So a little bit shorter, and when we look at that fuel window, Taylor, that's about when these drivers came down pit road. So I don't want to put words in their mouths and say that, you know, fuel is definitely a concern right now, but it might play into this race.
It certainly can. So we could be seeing drivers pit anywhere between the next 5 to 10 laps from now in order to get the fuel needed to finish out tonight's race. I'm sure some of them, though, are trying to bank on a caution, so they'll try to stay out as long as possible. But if you stay out too long, you will end up losing time on your competitors because they will have fresh tires and the needed fuel in order to make it to the end. So it's a matter of who will blink first and come down pit road.
Well, of course, that's if they need to do it at all. Again, that is right on the fuel cutoff for what these drivers are capable of running. So we'll have to see if, you know, perhaps there's some sputtering that we may see on lap 100 here at Texas if we were to see this thing all the way through it. Actually, here comes Nick Olson. He's going to try and shortcut it a little bit. So Olson, he's not going to wait that long. He's going to come down pit road, and he's going to go for the shortcut. He's the first driver on pit road, and oh boy, what a turn of events this is. Obviously, he doesn't need a yellow. He needs this thing to go all the way through, but oh man, how about it? He's going to go for a very steep shortcut here. He's going to split this run in half, barely overruns his pit stall.
And that will be who else will respond. Will anybody else come down pit road? Brian Mercurio will stay out. Chad Marquez will stay out. JD Laird, the rest of the top 10 for the most part, staying out on the race circuit. And it looks like you see maybe one other driver just came down pit road. Couldn't catch who it was. But the rest of the field still out on the race circuit. Nobody has been able to come down pit road just yet. Nick Olsen, though, is already one lap down in 29th.
It's Kyle Pokrefke that has made his way down on the pit road. So we'll have to see if this is what a lot of this field is going to do. I have a feeling that these drivers, for the most part, because they had about a lap or two under that caution flag to save fuel if they so desired. So I feel like most of these drivers are going to be good to go. But you also have two sets of tires sitting on pit road. So we'll have to see what the strategy plays out. Right now, battle for what is now the second position after Nick Olsen has come down pit road. The 23 JDR Graphics Chevrolet going to the bottom. A Chad Mikas looking for position number 2, and he's bringing Andrew Schwartz along with him. They're going to go side by side as the yellow reflects off of that 23 machine. It looks like he's going to have that preferred line going into 1 and 2, and so the 23 move him up to second. Now Schwartz pounces for third.
He will certainly move him up to P3. This will allow the door to open up for Will Barbagaletta to get around Chad Mikas as they go into 3 and 4. Side by side they'll go. Mikas on the top side, Barbagaletta on the inside as they go off of turn number 4. It's going to be door to door as they come across the start-finish line.
And it looks like Mikas, perhaps the tires starting not to agree with the handling of that 88 Valvoline Chevrolet. He's going to surrender to the 27 of Barbara Galetta, who goes by for 4th, and try to get down in front of Warren Rosario. Looks like he has some good long-run speed in his Ford Mustang. He's going to go to the bottom side. And unfortunately for Mikas, in just the blink of an eye, was running up here in about 2nd, and all of a sudden is looking at running in about 7th after just a couple of laps. So he came over the radio, Taylor. He obviously wasn't too, thrilled with the handling of his race car.
Well, I can tell you one driver who's being quite thrilled right now is that 25 of Nick Olsen. He is just picking them up, putting them down. These cars who are ahead of them on the lead lap, trying to see if he can get back on the lead lap in case a caution were to come out. But he's hoping, like I said, no caution. He wants to try to run down the race leaders. He's already passing the 99 of Tristan Hackenstein, who he just broke in the top 10 of drivers now as he tries to run down Ryan Vargas.
Well, and again, this is a very interesting move here from Olsen. If he's thinking that many of these drivers can't make it on fuel, this is actually going to work out in his favor. But, of course, if everybody is good to go, you don't think this is going to be the way to go. You see him rocket by Ryan Vargas right there, who runs in the 9th position. But the time difference here for Nick Olsen, if we look at our race leaders, is about a 1.5 per lap is what Olsen is making up on the rest of the field. So a big gamble here because, again, I feel like most of the field is good to go on fuel. But if we have a couple stragglers who have some issues, and of course Olsen going to have to push the issue here as he's going to try to get around much slower traffic in front of him.
There he goes to the top side around Nate Stewart, Elliott Henderson. He's just going to go on the top side and make the pass work with those fresh tires as he catches up to Chad Mikas as well as Will Barbagaletta. He has already worked his way up to the top 5 field of cars as he'll go way to the top side. That's the highest we've probably seen a driver go all night here tonight. Of course, that's what happens when you have fresh rubber compared to everybody else.
Exactly the case. The fresh tires doing numbers for Olsen, but it's only going to end up paying off not only if they run out of fuel, but this thing has to go green the rest of the way too. He'll come around and unlap himself here in short order, but of course he doesn't need a caution even after he unlaps himself because he'll be at the tail end of the lead lap. He loses all of that track position, so it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do. As he's going to run up now on a battle for second that actually Andrew Schwartz has gotten the best of as he's able to make his way by JD Laird. So Andrew Schwartz, the Canadian, doing some good work right here. He's able to make his way by and up into position number 2.
And there he goes. Nick Olsen in the 25 to go around the outside of Andrew Schwartz, who sits second. And now he just has one more driver to pass before getting back on the lead lap. Brian Mercurio, and it's going to be tight. It's coming up to less than 15 to go here at Texas Motor Speedway. Still, nobody inside the top 10 has come down pit road just yet, as they're going to see if they can make it to the end.
I think they're going to be in a good spot to make it, but Olsen definitely one that'll gamble on the strategy. Mercurio out to about a 3.5-second lead now over Andrew Schwartz, as Schwartz had to deal with, I guess, the faster traffic, you'll call it, of Nick Olsen that last time by. Laird has settled in third. Rosario is now starting to make some gains on the 23 machine in front of him as he's starting to walk him down just a little bit in the middle of 3 and 4. And Rosario is somebody, Taylor, I've looked at all night, and it's really been the long run speed on this 98 machine that's been really strong for him.
It certainly has, and he's doing a great job of it right now. Looking at his lap times, he is actually one of the faster drivers inside the top 5 of speed. There's only a couple of drivers ahead of him that were fast, but his last time with a 32.05. He is keeping pace with JD Laird for third, so he has a shot to take away that third position away from Laird with the closing laps to come.
What he does is, once again, he gets off the corner very, very nicely and is going to have a long run down the front straightaway. It was about 0.2 of a second is what he made up on the 23 machine directly in front of him. So Rosario, he'll pull back up to the JDRgraphics.com Chevrolet and it looks like off of 223, able to kind of use that middle to higher groove, able to get off, and Rosario going to have to recollect once again.
He's going to try again as they come off of turn 4 to see if he can get a good run-off exit, but can't quite get to the inside just yet. He'll look to the outside, now swap over to the inside. Down the front straightaway they'll go. He'll dive into the inside through 1 and 2. Side by side they'll go. JD is working the best of the outside as he can, but it's to no avail. Warren Rosario will complete the pass off at turn number 2, move him up to P3.
So Mercurio, Schwartz, and now Rosario has made his way up onto the podium. A couple of drivers that have really fallen back through this run. Will Barbagaletta has not had a good go of it during this run. Was up there, if you can remember, in about 3rd or 4th there with Chad Mikas for a couple of moments. He has fallen all the way back to 8th. He just got passed by Nate Stewart, as you see there on your screen as well. Nick Olsen has unlapped himself, so he is back on the lead lap. But again, it's about 10 laps to go, and I have not heard any rumblings, Taylor, that some of these guys may be short on fuel. I haven't heard the slightest inkling of it.
I have not either, and everybody's pretty much making it to the end, as we will see what will happen with the lining laps. Under 10 laps to go, and Nick Olsen's going to have a little bit of help to see if he can catch up to the rest of the field and try and at least salvage a top 10 finish here tonight.
We'll see if he can do it real quick here in the last 10 laps. We'll look at some of the upcoming events that we have here, both on STN and on Podium Esports. There you see, of course, we'll be back next Thursday night, the 11th round of the VSCRA National Premier Series, and you won't want to miss this one at Martinsville. That should be a pretty dazzling show for all you race fans out there. Ring around the roadies at Circuit of the Americas. That's all the way you get to look forward to November. And, of course, Nick Olsen representing the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge. Well, that's taking place on Podium Esports at the beginning of November. That'll be each Monday night, and that should be something that is really, truly unique. Multi-class NASCAR racing and a bunch of different road courses should be a lot of fun to catch up to. So, again, we work 7 laps to go now. Mercurio's still out front, and again, it's interesting because we talked about fuel mileage, but I just think everybody is good to go, Taylor.
It's certainly looking that way right now as we see our leader coming off turn 2 right now. No, and with his gap right now that he has over Andrew Schwartz, 3.8 seconds and growing, he can actually save some fuel with this. Take back off the corners a little bit, try and just coast it through some parts of the corner. Same thing with drivers like Andrew Schwartz, who is able to do the same thing as Warren Rosario, is about 1.1 seconds back. So they have a little bit of wiggle room to make it work in the closing laps.
When, at the beginning of this run, we mentioned the march through the field that Michael Frisch had put on. It was awfully impressive through the first 55 laps, and then he sped on pit road, and all of that went out the window. But you still look at the rebound effort for Michael Frisch, who started this run in about the 26th or 27th position. He has worked his way up to 10th, may have the card to try and go up there and maybe steal a 8th or 9th place finish, but unfortunate there for Frisch to get the untimely speeding penalty.
Closing in on 5 laps to go here at Texas Motor Speedway. Brian Mercurio still holding strong. Looking through the rest of the field, everybody's kind of just pacing themselves, trying to get to the end. A couple of cars I noticed battling for position is 5th position between Henderson and Chad Micas as they go single file through 3 and 4.
They work single file there. You see Henderson and Micas on your screen. Micas has fallen back towards the latter half of this run. Elliot Henderson's been a little bit on a surge. We'll have to see if Micas is up to the task to try and hold on to that position. But let's go ahead and take a look at our race leader. Brian Mercurio, 8 starts, is looking for his 5th win. And Taylor, it seems not to matter. We ran at the Charlotte Roval 2 weeks ago. We ran, of course, last week at Kansas Motor Speedway. Mercurio wins both of them. We come out to Texas, which is unlike either of those tracks, and still it's the driver of the 41 who is putting on a dominating performance.
He certainly is. He's picked it up to about 4 seconds over Andrew Schwartz right now with 3 laps to go. A lot still can happen as we're waiting to see if anybody else might decide to come down pit road. So far, no. Will Barbagaletta, though, he's back on his run. He was able to get around Ryan Vargas for the 8th position as we continue to wind down here at Texas. Only a handful of laps left to go.
To go, and we'll see if Vargas is able to work his way by. He's run down Barbagaletta. He also has to hold off Michael Frisch directly behind him, and you see Vargas going to put on the defensive line as they work into 1 and 2. He's going to have a nose of his Chevrolet to the inside of the 27. They'll work it off at turn number 2, and Vargas, a bit of a better exit. We'll see he has the preferred line as they go into 3 and 4 as they dive it down. There you see the 27 is going to try to get down in front of Frisch to save that position. So Vargas up into 8th, but we'll have to look forward now. Brian Mercurio, there is a reason that you will see this name in the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series in the fall. And talk about upcoming events. This is a guy you'll have to watch in that, and I think you can see that on perfect display right now. Off of turn number 4, he's going to go back to back to back in VSCRA. Brian Mercurio, your winner here at Texas.
Great job, a dominating performance by Brian Mercurio to take home the checkered flag here at Texas. As the rest of the field works their way through, see if there's any other battles for position. Close one, actually, between Michael Frisch and Will Barbagaletta. Michael Frisch actually beat Barbagaletta off the line for 9th position. So great racing here tonight.
So Frisch able to recover and finish in 9th after both starting in the back and recovering the rest of the night after having a speeding penalty. But once again, it is Brian Mercurio. We were only slowed by a couple of caution flags in this one, not too many to speak of. And Mercurio, day to night, it didn't matter. He was fast in all weather conditions. He's going to do another burnout for us, and of course, we'll talk to him in just a couple of moments. But why don't we go ahead and look at the full field rundown for you tonight. Brian Mercurio doing donuts. He's your race winner. Andrew Schwartz brings it home in the 2nd position, and what a drive he had through the field. 33rd to 2nd, as well as Warren Rosario, 34th, and moves up into 3rd. So the Hard Charger Award going to be a bit of a tie tonight between those two drivers. JD Laird involved in that lap 1 incident. He is able to rebound despite the nose or the damage on the nose of his Chevrolet. He finishes up in the 4th position. Chad Micas rounds it out with a top 5. Elliot Henderson finishes in 6th. Nate Stewart also comes through the field for 7th. Ryan Vargas holds on for 8th. Michael Frisch in 9th. And Will Barbagaletta finishes out in 10th.
Jake Fisher will come home in 11th, followed by Tristan Hagenstein in 12th. Will Rogers will come home in 13th, followed by Kyle Riley, 14th. Joey Stone will come home in the 15th position, followed by Nick Hansen in 16th. Jonathan Pommelari will be coming home in 17th with Zachary Sullivan, 18th. Aaron Hale will come home 19th with your top 20, Austin Drake.
Herschel will finish in 21st. 22nd goes to Hayden Ruffin. 23rd goes to Ethan Ball, a newcomer tonight. 24th, that strategy didn't quite pan out for Nick Olson. He even said so himself. He was just rolling the dice and didn't look like it worked out for him. But nevertheless, he finishes on the lead lap and in the 24th position. Peter Acumano finishes up in 25th. 26th goes to Austin Moore. 27th is Edwin Mendez. 28th to Justin Malillo. 29th is Eric Kemp. And 30th, 2 laps down, was Brad Perez.
31st, 8 laps down is Avery Schwalm, followed by Kyle be in 32nd. Richard Sprague Jr. will come home 33rd, followed by Briar Fritz in 34th, and 35th goes to Preston Pardis.
Really in for Preston Pardis there in this one, and that rounds out at least the full field rundown for us here at Texas as we look to catch up with a couple of our race winners here. Obviously Brian Mercurio we'll look to talk to first, and we've caught up with him once again for the third straight week. Brian, we come out to broadcast, and every single time we get to talk to you, I gotta admit, it's getting a little boring.
I don't know, man. It's always fun to have a good conversation with a good group of guys.
Yeah, see, there you go. But obviously able to get it done here at Texas tonight. Just seemed like whenever you let Olsen out front, you weren't the least bit worried that you wouldn't be able to run him down about 10 or 15 laps into the run.
No, I kind of got a preview of that with the run before. We went I think it was 20 or 30 laps, something like that, and I knew he'd be able to have the short run pace and he'd burn off his stuff, and I'd be able to catch him back. I saw that in the first run, so just kind of crossed my fingers that we'd get a long run there at the end, and just kind of played to my favor again.
Well, I got to ask you, Brian, and correct me if I'm wrong here. Texas is on the Pro Series schedule, and you'll be running these cars, correct?
Unfortunately, that's incorrect.
Okay.
Yeah, Charlotte and Homestead are our two 1.5 milers, so.
Okay, well, somewhat similar tracks. At least I guess you could call Charlotte a bit of a translating track from this one. But how much of this series has kind of helped with that, and the other racing you've been doing in this Xfinity car, is all that kind of leading up and kind of preparing you to try and learn how to drive this car to try and qualify through that series?
It's always good. You know what I mean? It's just even if I'm not doing practice directly for a track in the Pro Series, at least just driving the B car. I'll do a few B fixed races at whatever track it is for the current week. But running leagues like here, ASCORS, FTF all throughout the week, just kind of keeping myself up to speed and familiar with the B car and frequently driving it. I always like getting that extra practice, getting everything together, and just sharpening my skills all the time, keeping up to speed, and making sure I'm always ready. You know what I mean? Just going into the pro season, that's my biggest thing.
Absolutely, always improving is a good mindset to have, especially with the competition you'll eventually be up against. But Brian, I'll go ahead and hand you the mic one more time. You're probably used to it at this point, but I'm sure you still got some people to thank out there that maybe you missed the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't even know what I said there. I'll give a quick shout out here to DM Software Development, the sponsor I'm repping here on the hood of my car. I think I've said it before, but it looks like this is going to be my my Pro Series paint scheme. So for anybody watching out there, if you do watch any of the Pro Series broadcasts, this is probably what the car is going to look like. Along with on the side, we got Low Line Racing, team I race for. They're going to be the guys that I'm running with here in my Pro Series effort. In about a month, I believe the first race kicks off. So I was looking forward to that. You guys for putting on the race here. Zach over here at STN for the good broadcast. Always like watching the his broadcast, his visuals, his graphics package is always really good. He's always been improving on that. You guys were commentating. Everyone over at VSCRA for putting the race on. And that's about it.
Well, Brian, we congratulate you. Thank you. And, I guess we are at Martinsville next week. So who knows? Maybe we'll talk to you in Victory Lane in Virginia next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Not sure how I feel about short tracks in particular, but, Martinsville is always an interesting place. So we'll see how it goes. And by the way, Blake, congrats to you on reaching partner program on Twitch, by the way. Just wanted to give a quick shout out to that.
Well, I appreciate you, Brian. We did complete the path to partner today, and it's one milestone of many that we're hopefully look forward to break. So thank you, Brian, for that, and we'll go ahead and throw it down to Taylor Burris, who is caught up with our second place finisher tonight, Andrew Schwartz.
Here with Andrew Schwartz, second place finisher here tonight at Texas. Andrew, tell us about how your race was. You had a pretty eventful night tonight.
Yeah, it was pretty eventful. Getting up through the field, a couple close calls. I kind of surprised myself a little bit with how well I was able to hold on to the right front there for the long runs. So Second was a little bit of a surprise, but I'll obviously take it.
How difficult was it to work your way up to the field, but also making sure you had to manage your tires in order to try to get this second place finish?
As long as you didn't miss the middle of 1 and 2, you usually had a pretty good chance at setting someone up, and into 3. The 3 and 4, you pretty much just had to wait and hope they either pushed off the corner or you just screwed up long enough to get down into 1 and get around them.
All right. Well, Andrew, before we let you go, who would you like to say thank you to as we look forward to Martinsville next week?
Thanks to Elliot again for just putting this on. There's a lot of craziness that goes on before these races, but it's good to see that they run along like this.
All right. That is Andrew Schwartz coming home in second place here tonight. And Blake, I believe you caught up with our final driver on the step of the podium here tonight.
Yeah, we've caught up with Warren Rosario. And Warren, the one thing I think that about your race car that was perhaps the best out of anybody in the field is just how it came to life really on the long run. What was it? What was your secret tonight around, again, a configuration that still stumps so many people about getting around Texas and saving those tires? Because it could be a difficult task.
Just trying to keep it in the bottom, especially in turn 1 or turn 2 on the exit. Felt like the moment you got out of the bottom, you were pretty much going against the wall, and that would just kill your tires. So, for me, that was pretty much my goal the entire run. I felt like the cautions, we didn't have that many, I don't think. We had like a few runs, so I just assumed that the runs would be pretty long, so just trying to save my stuff.
Yeah, it looks like it was able to work out for you well tonight. And, also something else is, this was a race that, only slowed by a couple of caution flags. It was really a long march from the back of the field. Started in 34th, finished up in 3rd. What helped you kind of maneuver through traffic so well?
I'm just trying to be patient, trying to pick your spots. And if someone got a run on me, I didn't try blocking them or anything. I just let them by. I felt like I could just get them later. But just trying to pass people, I mainly just tried, just staying on the bottom again. I felt if you did that, you could get a good run off of 2, and then once you're side by side entering 3 and 4, it's pretty straightforward.
All right, Warren. Well, I'll go ahead and hand you the mic one more time. Anybody need to give a shout out to? This is your time to do it.
Yeah, I'd like to shout out my friend Arnold Columbia, and also Andrew Schwartz, who helped me throughout the race, just trying to get the lines down and everything. And I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting and the admins for our VSCRA of running tonight's race.
All right, Warren comes in 3rd tonight, newcomer to the league as far as the season is concerned, and he does so in pretty resounding fashion, comes home in 3rd tonight, so thank you, Warren. Taylor, I'll turn to you for some final thoughts. It's been a lot of great race. We even saw it through the middle part of the race there that although Mercurio has come out here and really dominated a good portion of the races that he's been in, we still see a lot of battles there. It seems like for 10th, about there every week between a lot of these guys, and they really put on a good show here.
They certainly did. A lot it says on the line here tonight, and with the season drawing to the close, we are going to see a mix of other drivers. Of course, Mercurio is going to be one to watch here tonight as we see how he does throughout the rest of the season. He's a little bit unsure about how Martinsville is going to go for him, but I have a feeling we'll see him still battling for position here towards the end.
We'll see if he's able to do that. But we'll have to look forward to next week, Thursday night, right here on STN. You get to look forward to what might be one of the more interesting races of the VSCRA National Premier Series schedule as we visit the paperclip for what I'm sure is going to be a very interesting night. And Taylor, in cars that we don't typically see at Martinsville. We haven't seen the Xfinity Series cars, not this generation of cars, at that track in a long time. So should be interesting for these guys who are accustomed to running some cup cars and trucks there.
It certainly is, and it's going to be exciting to watch for the most part, and it's going to be exciting. It's going to be a little bit beating and banging, going to be a little bit of rough and tumble, and tempers flaring, but it's going to be exciting.
It certainly is. Well, that'll about wrap it up for us here tonight. From our broadcast partner, Taylor Burris, for our producer, Zach Johnson, my name is Blake McCandless, saying so long from Fort Worth, Texas, where tonight it is once again Brian Mercurio who we bid farewell and congratulations to, your winner tonight in the VSCRA National Premier Series. We look forward to seeing you, and until next week, have a great one.